Well, good afternoon, everybody. We're back for another episode of Pickup Lines. Don't adjust your sets. I'm doing 2 shows today. I just did a show a little while ago with Lisa Campos. I was at UTSA, and now we're back for the second half of a doubleheader, if you will, presented by Gamez Law Firm, Integrity Roofing and Siding, and the Sabinal Group. We're live once again inside the all-electric Lexus RZ 450E, courtesy of North Park Lexus of San Antonio and North Park Lexus at Dominion, and we're quite literally in the shadow of the Thompson Hotel downtown with the great Fernando Reyes, who is here, and this is where you live.
This is my new home, and we love it.
I would too. I've been up into I've had the honor of being up there a couple of times, and the Express News did a nice article not too long ago about you and Mrs. Reyes. I mean, I guess for whatever reason you came down here because you spent so much time downtown anyway.
Well, that was one of the reasons that we talked about, but the other reason was that we had such a big house for my wife and I.
Right.
And although it was good during the holidays, the rest of the time it was just a house sitting empty.
Yeah.
And so then we thought about, we do spend a lot of time downtown. Why don't we start looking? And then Norma found the Arts, what we call the Arts Residence, which is part of the Thompson.
Right.
And she just said, this is the place where we need to be. And then she showed me the view that we would have.
Oh, yes.
And, it was just amazing.
I mean, the Express News article doesn't do it. I mean, no disrespect, it doesn't do it justice. You have to go up there and see it, and it's an unbelievable view.
Yeah.
And the Tobin Center is your neighbor.
The Tobin, we can walk to the Tobin. The other thing is, you're being here, you can just about go anywhere you want in the downtown area, and even anywhere around San Antonio. Even if we go back to Dominion, it's not that far.
Yeah.
But we don't spend a lot of time there. This is where we spend. This is our home. This is where we spend a lot of time.
Well, also you're spending a lot of time too, or at least you were at the Toyota plant, because that's where the Reyes Automotive Group, if you will, is. Did you start right when the plant came to San Antonio, or was it soon afterward?
Oh, no. We were, and I say we because there's the compadres, where we go known ourselves as the Toyota compadres, which I'll have to tell you how we got that name.
Okay.
I've been very blessed, Ernie. I've had the opportunity to be involved in a lot of different things. But being a Toyota supplier is not only just helps me, but helps my whole family.
Yes.
And helps the community of San Antonio. When I found out that Toyota was going to set up on the south side where I'm from, I'm a Harlandale graduate.
We'll get to that in a minute. Yes.
It was just amazing. And to get that opportunity was just unbelievable, because they could have picked anybody in San Antonio. They did pick 4 of us at that time. Now there's 5 of us. But they could have picked anybody. But I tell the young people that ask me, well, how did you get this opportunity?
Yeah.
I said, you need to be involved in your community. People have to know you. They have to know what you do, and you got to be good at what you do.
Yeah.
When Toyota came down here, they said, we want to include some Hispanics that in manufacturing our product. Well, as soon as they said that word, the Hispanic Chamber immediately said, well, we have a candidate for you. And they called me up. To tell you the story, I first didn't know who was calling me, and it was Mr. Jim Wiseman, and he said, I'm with he didn't say, he says, would you like to do some things for Toyota? And I thought, oh, this guy be a rep, he's gonna, because we used to have a line to stuff to do that we were manufacturing.
Right.
And I said, well, Mr. Wiseman, let me think about it. He said, well, if I come back in town, can we meet? I said, yeah, sure, of course, And he left, and I didn't give it a second thought.
Right.
Second time he comes back, he says, this is Mr. Jim Wiseman, I'd like to talk to you. And I said, well, I don't know, I'm kind of busy. He says, why don't you make time and come and visit me here at the Greater Chamber of Commerce? When he said that, Ernie, I realized this man is with Toyota. He's not a rep.
Legit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I immediately changed my demeanor. And I said, yes, sir, Mr. Wiseman, where do you want to meet?
When and where?
Yes, exactly. And he said, you know what? He asked me, why don't you come to my office? I said, of course, I'll be glad to. And then he thought about it. I said, you know what? Let me go visit your plant. Let me see what you do. I said, okay, we'll love to have you. So we came down to Reyes Industries at that time, looked at the plant, said, you're exactly what we need. And from there on, have meetings and different things. And the next thing I know, I'm a Toyota supplier.
And essentially what you do, among other things, many other things, is you create you have presses, right, that create the parts or a lot of the components for the interior of the trucks or the Toyota vehicles.
We do a lot of the different parts of the for the trucks, the Tundra, and at that time we were doing it for just the Tundra, and then we were doing it for the Tacoma as well. We do a lot of your interior parts, your plastic parts. We do what's called blow molding, and that's parts like your ducking for your truck, for your air conditioning.
Everything you see, like,
well, things that you really don't see. That's what's
okay.
amazing.
I see.
Let me tell you, working with Toyota has really opened my eyes because they are so conscientious about quality. It's unbelievable.
Right.
If they see a scratch on one of those vents that you will never see in your lifetime that you
Right.
own a car, unless you're a mechanic and you happen to be pulling out your dash to
Right.
replace it, you will never see that part.
Right.
But if they see that, they reject the part. And that is amazing. And people say, well, why do they let it go? I say, well, look, the problem is you let one thing go one time, and then the next time it's something
Right.
else, and then pretty soon it becomes a routine. And that's not the Toyota way. The Toyota way is we're going to produce the best vehicle that we can for our customers, and we want them to be safe, and we want them to be happy with the
Right.
product that they chose.
Doesn't Lexus fall in the Toyota family? Or
Lexus is the kind of the luxury brand for Toyota,
Yeah.
but it's all under the Toyota umbrella.
Yeah, and I mean, I've talked enough about the craftsmanship and everything and all the little details and everything. So you've been able to do that. Now, how active are you doing that still to this day?
Well, now I'm the chairman. I used to be president. Now I'm chairman. And what that means is I actually turn the reins over to my son, Jason Reyes,
Right.
to run the day-to-day
Yeah.
plants. And he has done a tremendous job. I'm very proud of him. Of course, Allison Reyes, you know Allison, my daughter.
Love her.
She helps him also. And so both of them are very involved in our two businesses that we have Toyota, because we also have Reyes Hayashi. Okay, Reyes Hayashi is a Japanese firm that we partnered in at the very beginning with Toyota, because we were partnered with Lear Automotive and they were partnered with Lear, and so all three of us got together and said, okay, we're all going to do this for the Tundras. And after a few years, and when we got the Tacoma in, they decided they wanted to move on, to be their own plant. So
Right.
they bought out or sold. I don't know what happened there because I wasn't involved in that
Right,
part.
right.
All I knew is that now all of a sudden I was going to have two businesses. But at first I thought, oh my God, which business am I going to go with? Am I
Right.
going to stay with the plastic injection or do with the carpets? Because that's what they do a lot of the carpet business.
Okay.
And I didn't know. But Toyota finally said, okay, guys, we'll agree for the buyout, all, but there's only one condition that we have. And that's Fernando is the majority owner of both businesses. So they gave me the opportunity to be in the plastic injection business, and then
Wow.
they gave me business opportunity to be in the carpet business and a lot of the other insulation and roof things that you do for the top of a car. And so they gave me two businesses in effect.
That's huge.
I know, it's unbelievable.
But this is a testament to you too. I mean, they obviously saw something in you where they would be willing to give you. Because I would think people don't just give majority stakes in businesses away
No.
all the time.
No. And of course, my partners weren't exactly, at that time, I guess, crazy about having a Hispanic that's had very little experience in automotive
Right.
to be president of both firms. But the fact is that they both knew that I had the experience in manufacturing
Yeah.
that in the long run would help them out. And there's certain things you don't do to Toyota, okay? And one thing is you don't, how would I put it? You don't really argue or second guess them about what they're doing. Okay.
Okay.
And their goal was, we want to have local Hispanic people doing business in our plant here in San Antonio, because they know. I mean,
Credit to them.
there are. I don't know of any other tier 1 suppliers for any of the automotive manufacturers
Right.
that are Hispanic. Now there might be now, but back then there was none.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what they wanted, but they wanted us to be the majority. And
Yeah.
and at first it was strange because, well, how are we going to be the majority? I don't know much about the automotive
Yeah.
business, right? But their idea was, we want you to learn from them, and eventually you will know enough to be able to handle your own business. And for them, of course, it was additional business. Even though they may have lost half of the business to me, they realized that the other amount of business that they get to it worldwide, because
Yeah.
they're worldwide businesses.
Of course.
This is minuscule for them.
Yeah.
And so that's why they agreed, I'm sure. I don't know all the politics behind
Right.
the scene, but hey, all I know is that I've been very blessed. The
It
Lord
worked
was
out.
very good to me.
It worked out. So you grow up as a kid on the south side.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there must have been times when you were daydreaming or at night going to sleep dreaming about adulthood and what I want to be when I grow up. In your wildest dreams, I mean the most wildest dreams, did you ever think that you would be living in a luxury apartment, that you'd be running multiple businesses like this? And we'll get to the Ray Feo stuff in just a minute. But in your wildest dreams, did you ever see it play out like this?
Never. I mean, my father worked at a meatpacking plant.
Right.
Okay. My mother was a stay-home mom, and our wife, and so there was no basis for me to say I'm going to be in manufacturing or own my own business.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing there. But fortunately or unfortunately, at a young age, I went to work very early in my life. My first job was as a busboy at Naples Italian Restaurant on Broadway, which is closed now.
Okay.
And so I learned the opportunity to work and earn money and help the family.
Right.
I also had the opportunity about maybe 2 years later, to leave that job to go work in a department store called Klein's Department. That's on Commerce Street. And it wasn't a big store, it was a small store. But what it did for me, Ernie, it taught me how to run a small business. Okay? And I say small, but basically it's how to run a business.
Yeah.
Because fortunately for me, they would ask me to do all kinds of things for them. You know, I mean, I was an employee. Maybe one day I'd be cleaning the suits and stuff like that, you know, dusting the dust off.
Right.
The next thing I'm helping them with payroll. Then the next thing is inventory, and then so it went on and on. But you don't know at the time the experience what that was going to do for me. You know.
Right.
I never thought I was going to own my own business. But what was the main thing that you wanted to be when you lived in San Antonio? You wanted to work at one of the bases.
Back then?
Yes.
Sure.
Kelly Air Force Base was a huge employer opportunity for Hispanics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I remember them saying, especially in our neighborhood, the ones that were a little bit better off were people that worked on the base. So in my mind, and the discussions that you hear, and your kids hear what y'all are talking about, you may not think so, but they do.
I do. Yes, I know.
And I thought, well, maybe I need to get a job on the base, you know. So after I finished high school, I got a job at Kelly Air Force Base.
Wow.
And I went to school at night. I went to SAC, and that's another whole story there. But that's where I started to get my education. I got my associate degree from there. And then I went to St. Mary's and continued to work at Kelly Air Force Base. But I wasn't advancing fast enough. I mean, I felt like, wow, there's got to be more than this. And so a good friend of mine who I got to meet and know very well, and he had a PhD, by the way, but he was in charge of training in our area at Kelly. He said, Fernando, you know, you got a lot of things going for you, but you need to expand your horizons. I said, what do you mean by that, Doc? He says, you need to consider other jobs other than Kelly. He said, because Kelly, being big as it is very competitive here.
Yeah.
You need to find a way to lower your competition and be able to advance. I said, well, Doc, how do I do that? Oh, I used to call him Doc. Because he had a PhD, so Doc. And he says, well, I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to give you a name of my friend that works for Defense Contract Administration.
Right.
And I want you to go talk to him and just see what he's got. I said, okay. Well, what do I have to lose, right?
Nothing to lose.
I mean, I was already married. I had one baby, so I needed to find a way to...
You kind of just skipped over that part real quick.
We'll come back to that later. I'm going to the business route. But,
yeah, okay, no, we'll get to that. Go ahead.
So I said, you know what? I said, that's a great idea. So I went and I met with the director of the Defense Contract Administration here in San Antonio. And I guess he took a liking to me because he says, Fernando, I want you to call me once a month until we find something for you.
Really? Wow.
I said, okay.
It's a good sign.
Yeah. I said, great. So I did. And I would only call him once a month. Not every week or every other day. Just once a month.
Right.
And I'd just say, is there any opportunities? And then one time I called him and he says, hey, I found something for you. I said, oh, fantastic. He said, but it's in Oklahoma City. And I said, oh, God, where's Oklahoma City? I mean, I was in the Navy and all that, but I never traveled much outside of Texas, you know. Right. And so I said, okay, you know. And so I came back and talked to Norma, my wife, and we talked. And I said, you know, this is an opportunity that can advance my growth in just in myself and also the family, you know, that there's three of us. And of course, my wife and I were the babies in our family. So, you know, in Hispanic families, you don't usually leave. You know, they want you close.
That is true.
And
That is true.
Norma being the only daughter, I mean, her and her brother, that was only two.
Yeah.
And in my family, we're only three.
Okay.
So it wasn't like, you know, we could just get up and move. But we decided, okay, if it's good for us and the family, we'll do it. So I said, okay, let's go. So the day they called me, said, okay, you got to come in and sign the papers. I went in to sign the papers. And he got a call when I was there, and he said, hey, Fernando, would you rather go to Dallas? I said, Dallas? Yeah. He says, we got an opening at our Defense Contract Administration regional office, but in Dallas, Texas. And I said, oh, I know where Dallas is. I'll go to Dallas. And so I got the job in Dallas, and that's where I went. And then, I mean, the experience that I had earlier, I can't tell you the things that I saw, the things that I did. I mean, I worked on the first landing gear for the very first space shuttle. I mean, I worked on the communications for the Air Force One at E-Systems. I mean, just if I would have been real smart and seen what they were doing back then, I would have already be a multi-billionaire because they already had the advanced phones. They could, because they told me, so well, from this plane here, we can call all the way to South America someplace. What? I said, really? He said, yeah. So I said, wow. But, you know, I never took it to see how I could make something out of it.
You did all right, though.
It was just a job, you know?
You did all right. You did all right. But growing up on the South Side, when you started working and everything, is it because you had to work to bring in income for the family? Or I mean, what kind of childhood was that?
Well, fortunately, I think I had a very good childhood up to a certain point, because when I hit a certain age, I think I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
I decided that I wanted to help the family. And they didn't ask me. They didn't say you have to go to work. It's just something that I felt that I needed to do to help. And being a busboy at Naples Italian restaurant was in itself a learning opportunity, because it was my first job.
Right. Yeah, but it was part of, you know, who you were. And at some point you met Miss Norma, and then you had a child and everything. And
well, we met at a church dance. And the band that was playing was the Royal Jesters, and so we have our favorite song from that. And we've been together 55 years already.
Congratulations.
So I mean, I have a wonderful wife, very, 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 what would you say, supportive of everything that I do, crazy stuff that I do.
How old were you when you got married?
I was, I think, 19, and Norma was probably 17.
But at the time, that wasn't a big deal that you guys were so young.
No.
Yeah.
They just said, okay, if that's what you want to do.
That's okay. And you've taken pretty good care of
But
yourself.
I had great in-laws as well. They were...
That helps.
Oh, my God. They were so supportive. They were so good that the first house that we bought next door to my in-laws.
Oh, well, there you go.
And but they were always there, willing to help us, because they knew we were young, and you know, and I think that's really what helped us when we were very young, is that, you know, her parents and my parents they were all very supportive of us.
Right. I mean, education. I mean, you mentioned SAC and everything, but you went on. You got a master's degree, right?
Yes, I did.
You kept going.
Well, that's another. Let me tell you that story.
Go ahead.
When I was working for Defense Contract Administration, they called me, said they had an opportunity with the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
HUD, yeah.
And what it did, it went to a higher grade level than what I could at the job that I was with Defense Contract Administration. So I went to the colonel and I told him, Colonel, I'm gonna be moving to HUD because they have a higher. I mean, it provides a higher opportunity for me than here. And he said, "Oh, we don't want you to leave." I said, "Well, you know, I have to because it's an opportunity."
Right.
So after a day or two, he said, "Come back." He came back and said, "Well, you know what? You should go because I can't find anything right now here that that will give you the same." So I went to work for HUD, and it was another.
Was that in Dallas also?
Yes, in Dallas, at the regional office.
Got it.
And that was a great opportunity. And so at one time they asked me to be the president of the union for defense. I mean, for the government employees. And not knowing any better, I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." So, but you know what it did for me? It gave me an opportunity to work with the regional administrator, the main guy, because as a union president, I elevated myself. Because of the position, not me, because of the position.
Right.
And because I worked with him and he got to like me, he came to me and said, "Fernando, would you want to go to Washington, D.C. for about a year? And this is what it's all about." we're going to send you up there. We're going to, you're going to work for the agency, but you'll go to school on the weekends. And you will go to school. We used to go to school Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 3 weeks out of the month, and then 1 month we would get off. But in the meantime, we were working toward our master's degree, plus working for the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And I can tell you, when I did that, Ernie, it was amazing to work in D.C. because you're always ahead with information. Because back then we didn't have all the internet and all of the phones that you have now.
Right.
And so something would happen, I would call back and say, hey, guess this is going to happen. Wow, everybody went way ahead because I was like advance notice.
So what year is this then when you're in D.C.?
In D.C., I was there let me think. About 74, 75, I think.
Just trying to think of like just the political landscape at the time and like.
Well, when I went up there, I went under the Carter administration.
I was going to say, is that Richard Nixon or Ford or
no?
Carter?
It was Carter, and then he lost to Reagan
in 1980, right?
Yes. And I got so close to be sent back because they said they were not going to keep the program going that I was under because it's political.
I see. Yeah.
And but then they decided, well, we've already spent this much time. We'll go ahead.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that the school that was running that program for our graduate work was the University of Southern California.
USC.
But I had never been to USC.
Right.
So people would come up to me, oh man, that's a nice campus. It's beautiful. I've never been
to Los Angeles?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I've been to Los Angeles, but never been to USC.
Yeah.
And so finally, I did get to go, and it is a fabulous school. And I did my graduate work in public administration.
Yeah.
Paid by the government.
Sure,
it was going to be for the government.
Absolutely.
And so it worked out very well for me. So it was a great opportunity.
Man, so you bounced around a little bit, and then at some point you come back to San Antonio, or was the plan always to come back to San Antonio?
Well, let me go back a little bit, okay? Because I'm trying to give you as much as I can.
That's
be
fine.
Quick. When I was in Washington, D.C., I had the opportunity to meet other Hispanic people that were doing very, very well. And the way I could tell they were doing very well, they drove the big car, the Mercedes.
Okay.
Their wives had the Ming stoves. They dressed in nice suits.
Okay.
And one day, I finally said to myself, wait a minute. I asked the friend, well, how are these Hispanic? Because they were Hispanic.
Hispanic,
I mean,
sure.
I've worked with white before, and that's not a big deal. But Hispanics that were doing well. And they said, well, they have this program called the 8A program. It's a set-aside. They set aside government contracts for them, and they're in different fields. It could be in in manufacturing. It can be in what do you call it? Not technology back then, but different avenues. I mean that they were looking at, that they could, businesses that the government needed. And when they told me that, I said, wait a minute, let me think about this. These guys are getting these huge contracts, making this huge money, doing business with the government. You see, and I said, well, wait a minute, but I work for the government. He says, yeah, but there's more money working with the government, than for the government.
Light bulb. Ding.
And I said, wow, this is where I need to be. Yeah.
That's it.
Washington, D.C. changed me a lot. And so I just put that in the back of my mind. I kept thinking about it, and I heard about the 8A program.
Yeah.
Came back to Dallas after a year and a half, because I did my graduate work, and that was part of the year. I had to come back to Dallas. And I was working with HUD, but they had moved. We were in Dallas, and they had moved the regional office to Fort Worth. But my home that we had bought was in Garland, Texas. So I was commuting about 100 miles back and forth. And it got to be so tough that this is hard with the traffic and all that. Yeah. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and he used to work for the Internal Revenue Service.
IRS.
And he said, Fernando, why don't you come work for IRS? It's right here. The regional office is right there, down a few blocks. I said, man, that would be great if I could find a job. Oh, we'll get you a job. And sure enough, I applied. They hired me, and I got a job with the Internal Revenue Service. And it was very interesting, Ernie, because you got to understand, the agencies that I've been with before, defense, okay, spend money, right? HUD, spend money,
right?
Okay, IRS, take money.
Don't. They still do.
Exactly, yeah. And so, I was there for maybe a year and a half, 2 years, and I just got to the point where it just wasn't what I really wanted to do. But by that time, I had already in back of my mind that I was going to open up my own business. And the only thing that I really knew was defense contracting. Okay? And I said, wow. And I had seen things being made, like, working on the space shuttle.
Space shuttle.
And, how they made aluminum folding cots and all that. Different big things, the little small
Right,
things.
yeah.
And so I said, wow, I want to open up my own business. And, I told Norma, I said, I don't want to work for the government anymore. I want to open my own business. And she said, well, yeah, but, we don't have the money to open up a business. And I said, well, I'm going to find a way to do it. Lo and behold, the Lord's been very good to me.
Yes.
I get invited to go to a Thanksgiving dinner for a friend of mine who had moved to Laredo. While I was down there, I saw that Laredo had like a 35% unemployment. It was during the peso devaluation. I think it was in 81, 82, something like that.
Yeah.
And so, man, I said, and I went, after I thought about it, reading and just my own thoughts, I said, this is where I need to be, man. I said, because in Dallas, no bank's going to talk to me.
Right.
For who's Fernando Reyes? I mean, I'm not even a guppy in the pool, man. I mean, I'm an amoeba, baby, if that. So I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to find a way. So I just happened to go down. A friend of mine told me, why don't you go visit Laredo? I have some friends there. Why don't you go visit them? I said, okay. This was after. Okay.
Yeah.
So I go to Laredo, and I set up a meeting with the mayor. Okay.
Wow.
Now, I mean, there's a lot of parts here that I'm skipping. Okay.
Yeah.
The mayor, I had met the mayor of Laredo because when I worked for HUD, one of my jobs was to review the cities, what they were doing with the community development block grant programs, which the monies they get from HUD.
Right.
Okay. And I just happened that they gave me that assignment to go down to Laredo and review that. Because of that, I got the opportunity to meet the mayor and the city manager and some of the city councilmen. So when I set up this meeting with the mayor, I went and I told Mayor Tatangelo in Laredo, in Italian, I'm with very well, one of the neatest guys I ever met. He said, I told him, I said, Mayor, I want to open up a business here in Laredo. He said, what do you want to do, Fernando? And I told him, I want to go after government contracts. These are things I think we can go after. He says, and by the way, Mayor, this is one of the ways that you can bring your tax dollars back to your community. Because when you get a government contract, you're going to hire people, you're going to buy stuff, there's a lot of business that goes on with that.
Oh.
And so he just loved the idea, plus the fact that he used to manufacture sunglasses in Mexico. Okay? So he kind of understood about my manufacturing idea.
Right.
And so he got behind me, and they gave me a building to use at the Laredo airport. It was a small building, not really huge, but a nice little building.
Good start.
Okay? And so I said, wow, that mayor was really nice. And then I said, well, wait a minute. But, I don't have any money. I don't have any equipment. And so he told me, but I had already started bidding on contracts. Okay?
Yeah.
So I knew that I was in line to get one contract, but I had to quit working for the government because you can't be awarded a government contract when you work for the government.
Right.
So almost at the line where I almost have to quit. Okay. And so I quit my job, and I went down back to Laredo. And a friend of mine in Dallas told me, go talk to these banker friends of mine. Maybe they can help you. And those guys actually made me, because without them, I would be here talking to you. It was Ed Lopez and Thomas Arriaga. One was executive vice president, and the one was vice president of Union National Bank. And so I went and talked to him. I said, hey guys, this is what I want to do. And I said, I'm in line to get this contract. And he said, what are you going to be making? I said, well, hopefully we're going to be making aluminum folding cots. That was our first product. Okay. And it wasn't, when you do that, it's not really manufacturing. It's mostly like assembly. You got to put all the parts together. And so he said, well, what do you need? I had no idea what I needed as far as money.
Right.
So I just blurted out, I think about $1 million. And he said, okay. So he called the secretary in. He said, let's get the paperwork ready. We're going to give him a line of credit for $1 million. No financial statement, no collateral. Just my signature. Okay. And the only thing he asked me was, you need to sign, when you get the contract, assign it to the bank. And what that means is you assign to them, so they get the payment first. They take out what you owe
Right.
them,
Yeah,
and then they give you the
the
difference.
rest.
Okay, so but it provided the cash flow. That's
Yeah.
the
Oh,
hardest
that's-
thing for most small business is the cash flow. You can have the best idea, you can have
amen
all kinds-
to that.
So, but if you don't have the cash flow, it makes it real difficult to do anything.
Yeah.
So now I had a building, and I had cash flow. Okay, but I had no equipment. So I am sitting there saying, what am I going to do? I have to get the equipment. If they give
Yeah.
me this contract, I mean,
Gotta have
they
it.
gave me a line of credit, but that line of credit is to use to buy
Right.
things and
Right.
all, not to buy equipment. That's
Yeah.
a different. That's an
Yeah.
asset. That's
Yeah,
a different
yeah.
type of loan. And so I just so happened that this SBA person who was a secretary for the director here at SBA
Small Business Administration. Yeah.
was somebody that I had met before because when I used to come down here, one of the things that HUD had asked me to do was to help them find Hispanics to work for HUD.
Right.
Okay, so I did. And when I'd go to SBA to go talk to some of their employees and stuff, and I met her, and she was a secretary. And I mean, I was nice to her. She was nice to me. I didn't know
Yeah.
that we were going to have anything later on. Well, after so many years, she becomes my business development specialist. Okay, which means that she's in charge of my business, a small business, when I get certified. Okay, and she said, "Well, what do you need, Fernando?" And I had no idea.
No idea.
I said, "I need about $500,000 to buy my equipment." He said, "Really?" "Yeah." He said, "Well, SBA has a program called the Business Development Specialist that you can apply for, and I'll put the thing together for you. I think we can get it." I said, "Okay." So, I mean, she fills out the paperwork for me. I sign it. Next thing I know, maybe 2 weeks later, she says, "Hey, you got your $500,000 for your equipment."
Wow.
So I have building, I have working line of credit, I have equipment. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I got the contract.
And then
Well,
off you
in
go.
between, I had the contract. Okay, to make aluminum folding cots. And so I said, "But hell, I'm not an engineer." I've seen how it's been put together, but I've never. I mean, I don't know all the different parts. And so I said, "Well, I'm going to figure that out somehow." So I started calling suppliers because I needed to buy material.
Yeah.
And I called this one place to buy the nylon material, and they were new too. And I said, "Fernando, we know you're new. Why don't you do this for us, and we'll do this for you?" I said, "Okay, what?" So you give us a contract, and we'll send our engineers down there to help you put this deal together. Man, when they said, I said, "You got it." So they send down 2 engineers. They help set up the whole line for me. And next thing you know, we're making cots, man. I had to hire people and train them. And I mean, so
Wow.
that's why I said the Lord's been very good to me
Yeah.
because He's placed things for me. But I just have to be alert to be able to know what to do.
What a
with it.
blessing.
Yeah.
What a blessing.
Yeah.
And so you do all that. And fast forward, we have a few more minutes here with Fernando Reyes. It's just fascinating stuff. And what a lifetime of great experiences and stories and everything. Want to fast forward to, because you brought a couple of things here, and I think a lot of you know I'm very active in the Fiesta community and just served on the court for Ray Feo 75. But among many other things, you were Ray Feo 60.
Yes.
So 15 years ago, you were the man, and you quite literally have the crown here with you, which I wanted you to show off because it's 15 years later, it's still beautiful. Do you ever wear it around the house?
No. Norma doesn't let me wear it.
I get it.
I can wear it outside the house, but not inside the house. But
that's beautiful.
Yeah, this was a beautiful experience. Let me tell you. I mean, and I didn't know anything about the Rayfield program when I did this. I had just started to learn. My daughter. The reason I found out about it because my daughter Allison was queen fed at Las Flores when she was 16 years old.
Sure.
And so that's how I got to meet all the people from Ray Feo and all that. And they took a liking to me. And a year or two after she did that, they asked me to be Ray Feo. And I said, okay, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But I did know that our whole purpose was to raise money for scholarships.
Right.
And I am so behind that. Because I think with a good education, you have a good chance of making whatever, to become successful at whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Okay? That's
you're a
key.
living, breathing example of that. I mean,
Well, I worked. I got my education. I had to do part-time work at night and go to school today, and then go to school today and all kinds of stuff. But I made it happen. And it was a sacrifice on the family.
Yeah.
Because we moved. We had to
For
move.
sure. No, I didn't realize you had bounced around so much early in your marriage and everything. But I know a lot of the crowns have, like, they call Easter eggs or little special, little hidden or things that are meaningful to you. Do you have anything on there that sticks out?
Well, first of all and foremost, of course, everything under the Lord.
Your faith.
That's why I put that on top.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have all the jewels and all that. But each one of these represent one member of my family. It's my wife, my sons, and my daughter.
They're like, I want people to see this. They're like little lion heads or
they're jaguars, I believe.
Jaguars. Okay, there's one here, and then there's 5 of them. Yeah. So for your wife.
But only one of them bites.
I won't ask which one. I have an idea, but I won't.
Okay.
And then your son went on to be Fred went on to be a Ray Feo as well, which I'm sure was an amazing.
Yes.
He had a lot of pride. Very proud of him. And the trophy case, the award case in your office, and I mean, you're going to need another unit up here pretty soon for all these. But you said you got one recently that was very meaningful to you.
This one I brought because we just got this last Friday, and it was on the Pura Vida Awards, and it was a lifetime achievement for me and Norma. We were both recognized. That's what makes this very special. And they put on a beautiful event. They had great entertainment. They did a lot of awards, mostly to entertainers, but a few local individuals, community people that they felt was important. And so we got invited to do this. And one of the things that Norma and I are very involved in is in the education part, in the raising money for scholarships. You know about Alamo Promise, right?
Sure, yeah.
Well, Norma and I were the co-chairs for the first gala and raised over $850,000 for
amazing.
them. This past year, I think they raised a little over $1 million. So it's beginning to...
Essentially, it allows students who attend one of the Alamo colleges to go for free.
For free.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But somebody's got to pay for that.
Yeah.
So, and that's where you guys come in.
Exactly. And so we want to provide the funds to give them the opportunity to be able to do whatever their dreams they have, okay? And with education, I think you're way ahead of the game if you get educated. It doesn't matter. You can say, well, I want to be this, but you can always change your mind. You have to do exactly what you do. I mean, but you got to have that education to help you get started.
It's like I've said before, because I almost dropped out of college, halfway through my college experience. They can't take the diploma away from you. Right. They can take away all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
But they can never take the education away.
Exactly. That is so important.
Yeah.
And I am a big believer in Alamo colleges. I mean,
sure.
Because without them, I would not have gotten any college degree because I couldn't afford to go to the 4-year institutes at that particular time.
You said you went to San Antonio College, right?
I went to San Antonio College, got my associate degree there in business.
Yeah.
And then went off to St. Mary's, and then finished off at the University of Texas in Dallas because we had moved to Dallas.
Right.
And by that time I was working, so I was going part-time to school. But I never stopped going to school.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
No matter what job, no matter the fact that we were married. I mean, it's easy to say, I don't want to do this anymore. It's just too much.
Like I said, I almost dropped out myself. I know.
It's a job, and I understand, but you got to understand that can be.
Right.
It's nothing guaranteed.
Yeah.
But it can be the key to success.
Yeah.
If you use it correctly.
I love it.
And that's what's important.
Well, just as we close here, I know you've also got a VIA lapel pin on, which it would take us another half hour to get through everything.
Oh, yeah.
But are you still the chair of the board at VIA? I couldn't list them all, but all of the foundations, the boards, you're a Hall of Famer, I think, and is it Harlandale ISD? Yes. I mean, the list goes on, and you don't seem to show any signs of slowing down.
I don't plan to slow down. I say that I'm semi-retired, okay?
Right.
But in reality, I'm still involved in so many different things. And I want to get back to my community.
Yeah.
People say, well, why would you go be chair of VIA? That's a $500 million agency.
It's a full-time gig, too.
With thousands of employees and all that. And a lot of meetings and a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I said, you know what? It gives back to our community.
Yeah.
And we're going to have the first rapid transit lines here in San Antonio within a few years. And that's going to change the transportation for San Antonio because we're way behind. We're the 7th largest city in the country. No. And we don't have any type of rapid transit for our people. And I'm not talking for people that have to use it every day, you or me or whatever.
Right.
But the people that have to go to work, the people that have to go to school, I could not have gotten my associate degree if I hadn't taken the bus to go to to SAC, you know.
Well, another 1 million people are coming to San Antonio in the next 15 years or something like that.
And
so.
I don't know if you've lived in any of the bigger cities, but when I lived in Washington D.C., there was no way I was going to drive my car downtown to the district because the parking was so expensive and the traffic was terrible.
Absolutely.
So that's when we started using the rapid transit that they had, and I said, "Wow, this is fantastic."
Yeah.
And we want to just give the citizens of San Antonio the opportunity to have something like that if they want. You don't have to use it, you know, but the person that needs it, we're glad that we can.
I was in a Via bus recently, as you know, and I mean, they're beautiful buses. I mean, they're a lot more updated and got some bells and whistles that people may not realize.
Exactly.
And so, and maybe some people take them for granted because they drive by all the time. But fantastic stuff. Well, this has been a real treat. I've known you for a while, but I didn't know like all of the whole life story and kind of the arc of I knew you were successful and I knew you and Mrs. Reyes are very involved, but I think a lot of people are fascinated by how, you know, those decisions that you made early in life to take a chance to go to Dallas or to stay in college, or that one decision you made, or that one friend, that one connection changed everything for you.
Well, but you also have to understand that my wife was very, very supportive of me. I mean, the fact that she was the youngest in her family. I mean, there was only two, and then they said we're going to move to Dallas, and we're 18 years old, 19 years old. I mean, the Hispanic families, they want to keep you close.
No, I get it.
And but she said no. If you want to go, we'll go. Or Laredo. I mean, from Dallas to Laredo, Texas, and when we moved to Laredo, Texas, it's nothing like it is now.
No,
I mean, it was a small town. But sometimes you have to sacrifice to get the rewards that you want in life.
And I know you still have very deep roots and long friendships with people in the Laredo area.
Oh, yeah.
You go there every year at least, multiple times?
One of my financial advisors is in Laredo. I've had him for over 30 years.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So my accountant is still in Laredo, Texas, over 30 years. So I have a lot of good friends and people that I learned from at that particular time, and I cherish their friendship.
But good for you on having a willingness to give it back, and you could easily sit up there in your apartment and just hang out and watch everybody and that amazing view and everything. But you'd probably get bored of that after a little while if you just sat up there and did nothing.
You don't get bored. Let me tell you, there's always something going on in town. I mean, whether it's a bus drives up with a player, because the players for the
NBA teams, a lot of them stay here at the Thompson.
Yeah. And I come out to my balcony and I can see people wanting to get autographs and just all kinds of stuff. And
that's fascinating.
The parades have always been right here. The River Parade, the Tobin's closed.
This is the place to be. This is the place to be.
And then now they're doing the Tropicana.
Yeah, we're literally on this side of the car. The Tropicana is getting redone. So, well, I'll let you get back to your bride and everything. Fascinating conversation. The great Fernando Reyes. Thank you for everything and what you've done and what you continue to do.
Thank you.
It's an amazing life story. Very good. And he's not even done. Like he said, he's got more to do. All right, there's another episode of Pickup Lines presented by Gamez Law Firm, Integrity Roofing and Siding, and the Sabinal Group. We'll be back again very soon. You never know who will be in the chair here, but you'll be a tough act to follow.
Well,
yeah.
I'm sure you'll find somebody.
We'll see. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.
Thank
Bye.
you.